welcome back. I'm Mike Quincy.
I'm Jake Fisher.
And I'm Maddie McCarty.
So today on Talking Cars, we're going to talk about the 2025 GMC Terrain. This is a redesigned model. It's a compact SUV. It follows the redesigned Chevrolet Equinox. Big news is that it gets new styling, very much truck-like. The other thing that we're really kind of excited about the Terrain is that the smart folks at GM did away with the dash-mounted push-button gear selector, which we absolutely hated. It now has a conventional gear selector mounted on the steering column. It also gets a whole bunch of standard safety features. Our all-wheel drive model gets a 175 horsepower, 1.5-liter turbocharged four-cylinder matched to an 8-speed automatic transmission. The EPA estimates fuel economy at 25 miles per gallon combined. We bought an all-wheel drive Elevation model. The bottom line came to $37,540. And no one wants to hear me talk anymore.
I think we're done.
You were on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt.
We could go. Yeah. We could go. Thanks everyone. Thanks for everyone.
Tuning in. We'll see you
Tune
later.
in next time.
But so, Maddie, I'm going to turn to you before I lose my voice.
I'll take over.
What did you think so far of the Terrain?
So when I hopped in it, I thought it looked like, wow, this is the Acadia. Just like scaled down. But yeah, no, so it looks like a lot of other GMs that we've seen so far. So we have our classic now, unfortunately, complex windshield wiper control on the left side. That's also the turn signal. You mentioned the gear selectors gone away from the buttons, which is fantastic. And now we have a more of a steering column mounted shifter it kind of resembles the old fashioned shifter back in the day.
Back in our day, or back in my day.
You grab it like this and kind of clunk, clunk, clunk?
I did drive a car like that.
Did you?
So, yeah. But yeah, so that's a lot bit easier than using the buttons in the center console. But the thing that just really, I know everyone here, I think, has complained about is the headlight controls and how difficult they are to use because they're in the touchscreen. And because this touchscreen is so long, it's really far down low. So it's even more difficult than like if you hopped into the Equinox, which is a little bit up on eye level, but still, neither of them are great. So it has a 15-inch center screen that's vertical. So, and it's also like really down low. I would say even more down low than the Acadia. And so what that means is that everything has kind of been blown up, which is nice. So bigger buttons. But then we have all of our climate controls really far down low.
And just for clarification, blown up. We didn't blow up the engine or anything. Yeah.
It's kind of like zoomed in on every single one.
Blow it up.
Yeah. But yeah, so like, I don't know if you have recently used the climate controls, but at first look, they look really difficult to use because they're really far down low, like I said. But we have these like big piano key type of buttons that are like physical ones, which I think is intended to make it easier to use. However, you always have to look down to use them. I found myself.
Bone of contention, though, regarding the climate system is those seat heater buttons.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
They're absolutely terrible.
Just the logbook that we have of everyone sharing their comments is just riddled with comments about the seat heaters and the ventilator buttons.
Yeah,
ventilation buttons.
So just for our audience, you have to hit the icon button for the seat heater for it to first pop up.
It pops up even far, like away.
Right.
Like I don't know why it's not just like close. And this isn't just the seat heaters, but it's also the temperature and the fan location. And so yeah, it's just like, why do we have to press it twice in order to use it? And
right. You press it once to bring it up, and then you decide your intensity level, so you have to then tap a couple more times.
Yeah.
Instead of just having one button where you turn it on or off.
It lengthens the whole process.
Right.
Wonderful advancements.
Right.
Hey, let me ask you this. I'm thinking about it, and like for years, many people following there's GMC and there's Chevy, and so many of the vehicles are basically twins. And like for so many years, we're like, what's really the difference? In today's world, in 2025, are we in a world where Chevy is landscape and GMC is portrait? I mean, is this the big differentiation between Chevy and GMC at this time?
That's kind of what we're looking at. Yeah, because we are getting the black center screen that's disconnected from the driver's screen. But if you hop into a lot of different Chevys, you'll see that horizontal landscape
It's kind
with
of
that
same
blue
stuff. It's
style.
just you turned your iPad
and
90
so,
degrees.
Yeah, so I guess it's like if you wanted to
That sounds like the Fisker. Remember, you could switch the
Oh, we don't need to bring back the
just-
nightmares of the Fisker.
Bygones. Going to see bygones. We're moving on.
But no, you're right about the different orientation. So that's a huge thing of hop into both and see which one you like.
It's probably the biggest difference between
Yeah.
the vehicles at this
Yeah.
time, right? I mean, stereo styling slightly, but come on.
And then the storage is also going to differ between car to car. And in this vehicle, I think the storage compartment and the armrest is fine. It's very deep. It holds a lot of stuff. But then you have an easy access to the wireless phone charger. Keeps your phone kind of in the line of sight, so you're less likely to forget it when you hop back out. But the thing that I have an issue with, which at first I really loved, was there's this little like dip below the center stack where you can just throw like your keys or your chapstick or your wallet, which is great. But then since the climate buttons are right above it, it's so easy to block those buttons.
Right. I think a few people mentioned that about using the cup holders as well.
Yeah, those too.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think the design was just not done together. I think it was done like piecemeal, and so
Different
that's,
groups working on the different parts.
Yeah, it kind
They're
of gives that
Our
feeling.
climate system works great,
Yeah.
but it has to go in a car too.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes they forget that part.
Yeah.
And Jake, when literally the rubber meets the road here,
Rubber.
what did you find
Road.
in the driving characteristics of this SUV?
I'm sorry, I fell asleep a little bit there. Look, it's not bad, right? And it's like there's nothing really sticking out about it, right? It's not too slow, it's not too fast, it handles okay, it's fairly quiet, but it really doesn't stand out in any way, which maybe is better than the previous generation because there was annoyances about it. But is that good enough?
Well,
is the question.
If you're a manufacturer, do you want someone to say, hey, describe our vehicle for? It's not bad. It's not.
It's okay.
It's
in a world.
okay.
And look, here's the issue, right? The issue is that like years ago, like mid-sized family sedans were like this really competitive market, and everyone kind of like put all their eggs in that basket. Today, the small SUV market, that's the family sedan market. That's the family car. And there is so much really, really, really good competition in that segment. And okay, it's like you said, it kind of looks maybe a little more trucky than some of the competitors. How far does that go?
Right.
And if people are just kind of looking for, and yes, it's not missing any of the safety equipment anymore. And yes, it doesn't have a really dumb shifter design anymore. But there's some great competition out there, and that makes it really hard, especially like our car was like, 37.5. There's a lot of good hybrids you could get. I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost what's missing here, right? I mean, GM almost seems like a generation behind the times in terms of what people are doing in terms of, the powertrains, right? I mean, like, okay, yes, it has a small displacement turbo. Everyone seems to be doing that, but everyone's moved on to like these, where you're getting almost 40 miles per gallon out of hybrids, which are smooth and powerful and all that stuff.
Right. So good enough might not be good enough. And as we talked about in our pre-production meeting, this is not available in a hybrid.
Yeah. And I mean, really, part of the issue is just, when you look at General Motors, right? And, a lot of people ask about, reliability, right? What's going on with reliability? And also with these powertrains, part of the problem is that there isn't like this North Star for GM when it comes to like powertrain and what they're doing.
Which is funny because they used to have a North Star V8.
They did have a North Star V8.
Stop the presses here.
Okay, so
Let's rephrase that.
no,
a little
I
bit.
actually want to talk about the 4.6 liter V8 engine for a while because it did some cool
You
stuff.
could have used any other metaphor to describe. They're not sure.
So
where
in the
they're
90s,
going.
they had a North Star.
But they lost it.
But
They lost sight of
their
it.
They lost sight of their North
Our
Star.
audience would have creamed us for that.
You could take all the oil out and it still would run because it would actually do cylinder deactivation and all these kinds of things.
So-
Anyway, let's go back 25 years. You got Toyota. They're like hybrids. We're going to do everything hybrids. And slowly, they kind of went and we're in this world where like a lot of their mainstream vehicles are only hybrids. You look at Subaru. They're like flat four engines and all-wheel drive. We're doing that across the board. And they did it, and they stuck to it. You look at GM, And you look at that same time frame, and they're like, you know, we're going to do hybrids. No, we're going to do a plug-in hybrid, which is the Chevy Volt, right? No, we're going to do diesels. They had like a Chevy Cruze diesel.
Great.
And then they were going to do small displacement turbos. And then they were like all EVs, right? Oh, in 2030, everything's going to be EVs. And now they're like scratching their heads like, oh, maybe hybrids are a thing again. And what's really tough is to kind of keep up in the market when you keep on changing your trajectory over and over again. Not like, I mean, again, you look at like hybrids, right, in this market, right? I mean, just almost everyone's got a hybrid at this point. They don't. But worse is the reliability is tough because you kind of keep on changing what your core competence is, and you don't really build that over time. And we see that with our reliability information. The more you stick with something, the more you really refine it, and that's how, you know, Toyota is able to, you know, get these, you know, hybrids and plug-in hybrids that are very reliable, whereas GM will do hybrids, but again, it'll be, you know, another learning curve for that. And that makes it tough.
It kind of, you know, answers the question. There are so many vehicles in this segment that are good, and reliability can be the differentiation.
Sure.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm always asked, you know, this question: what is wrong with Detroit? Why can't they seem to figure out, you know, reliability? And I think, you know, Jake just answered that. I mean, right?
Yeah.
You get a technology that works, and you refine it, you stick with it, you make it better over time, but you're not always changing your direction.
And let me be totally clear. I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with the people who are designing these cars. They are brilliant people doing brilliant stuff.
Oh, sure.
But the problem is that if you don't have the opportunity to refine it and stick with it, nobody is going to be able to make a car that is that reliable.
It's going to be a 1 in a million to get an A+ car in the first shot.
That's right.
Right.
Yes.
All right, so considering the crowded field, and we talked about Honda and Subaru and Toyota and whatnot, Matt, I'm going to turn to you. If you had to pick one in this compact SUV segment, what would you drive away with?
I've considered a lot because, like you said, this is like a perfectly fine middle of the road vehicle to get if you want.
I can feel the hot passion just coming right out.
Well, see, I drove this one. I feel like I take a lot of these cars up for longer road trips, but I did drive this one up to Vermont, and it was fine. I sat for 2.5 hours straight and didn't have any back pain or anything, and I felt like, you know, I could really just pass people if I needed to, if they're going really slow. So there was the power there, but it was also just like, oh, I am just driving like a car where I might have to floor it more often just to be able to pass. But it was fine. But I still think that there are better options out there, so I wouldn't choose this one. Instead, I would either choose a CR-V hybrid or a RAV4 hybrid, and it really comes down to the controls for those vehicles because they're both pretty similarly priced, and you get good gas mileage. The RAV4, I would pick it because of the reliability as well. But with the CR-V hybrid, I just think that the controls are a lot easier to use, and you get all of the safety features standard. Toyota, you just have to go up a little bit, I think, for all of the safety features that you mentioned, like rear cross traffic warning, blind spot warning. But yeah, so it's just like there's small differences, but it's really important to like what's most important to you. So for me, I'd end up getting I would get the RAV4 just because of reliability. You can't beat that.
So funny. I thought you were going to say.
You thought I was going to say the CR-V.
That was a total bait and switch.
Wow.
What a wild ride.
I got to keep you on your toes.
Okay, no, that's great.
But it would be the hybrid, I have to say.
Oh, 100%.
Like
Yeah.
100%.
You're going to pull that out anywhere, right?
Okay. No. So one vote for RAV4 hybrid.
Yeah,
Mr.
long
Fisher.
story short.
I think you said most of the stuff I was going to say.
Uh-oh.
But I mean, first of all, I'm interested in what the upcoming RAV4 is, but we'll put that aside. But CR-V. CR-V hybrid, done. And I'll tell you why. I mean, first of all, yeah, the controls are just so simple and easy, and it's so refreshing in today's world. But also, there's something about Honda in terms of Honda versus Toyota, where Honda's just a little bit more sportier in the edge about it. You know, even the way the hybrid works. So like, I feel like to give up a couple of miles per gallon just make the car feel more responsive. The steering is more responsive. It just feels like a very honest, like, partner when you're driving it, more so than Toyotas, which tend to be like a really reliable appliance that is just real. You can rely on it. It does everything right.
It feels more middle of the line as well, but just like elevated from the Terrain, like the RAV4. Whereas your CRV, it is
just
sportier.
a little bit, There's a little bit that's fun about it, you know. And I think Honda's doing a pretty good job of that throughout the line. I feel like Honda kind of lost their way a few years ago, but I think they're getting their mojo back lately with their new products.
I would agree with the Honda Mojo, certainly handling and whatnot.
That's their new product line. The Mojo edition.
I will take serious issue with the Honda seats that we have sampled in a whole bunch of new Hondas. I think they're terrible. They are, for me, a complete deal breaker because, well, you're driving your car. You can't you can avoid some like terrible controls sometimes.
Yeah.
You can't avoid these seats.
That's a fair point.
You can avoid the seats. Touring. If you do a high line, we're gonna get trim line.
No, absolutely, sure.
Is it the sport touring? I mean, when you go and you get
top of the
line CRV, where you get with the leather, it's actually a nice upgrade off of that. So there's a way to avoid it, but you're right. You know, if you go and you look for the base price, it may not be the car that you're looking for.
Yep. So upgrade that one, and I'm with you. I've always loved the RAV4 hybrid. I think it's a terrific car, but I'm gonna go a little bit more stylish.
Mitsubishi.
I'm going with the Hyundai Tucson hybrid.
Ooh.
Oh, not bad.
Okay.
I can respect that.
Okay.
Good controls. Better seats. I mean, not Toyota reliability, but still pretty solid.
Sure.
But great fuel economy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And an engaging drive. I like the steering. I like the styling.
They also come standard with a lot of safety features as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I would not be displeased with either of your guys' choices.
Well, I mean, look, all these vehicles are really great vehicles, so it's not good enough being good.
Right.
When there's great choices like this. But you're right.
But competition is good for consumers. Having lots of really great choices out there is good for buyers because if you're getting a stubborn treatment from a Toyota dealer, you can go to the Honda dealer. You get stonewalled by Honda, you go to Honda. There's all these vehicles out
And
there.
honestly, I'll throw in a dark horse here is the Santa Fe hybrid.
Yeah,
which
sure.
for $37,500, you can get yourself into a Santa Fe that has a third row seat and it drives super nice and it's fuel efficient.
A lot of room.
Yeah.
I took the Santa Fe hybrid up to Ottawa and back. So hours and
Wow.
hours and hours of driving. What a great vehicle.
It really is.
I love it. Yeah. Absolutely love it. Okay, so we're getting all geeked out on compact SUVs, but we have tons of information on all size SUVs at consumerreports.org. And just a reminder, this is just our first impressions of the GMC Terrain, so check back with cr.org and see our final test results. We are working diligently on your behalf, which of course then brings us to our audience questions. And we love your questions. Keep them coming. Text 30-second videos. Just go to cr.org/talkingcars. That's cr.org/talkingcars. And if we use your question on a podcast, we'll send you a groovy t-shirt or swag or something that super producer Dave Abrams will pull out of his magical closet. So the first question we've got is Paul from San Diego, California, who writes, no one wants to pay more than MSRP on a car. So what should I be asking or doing to lower the price and seal the deal? Well, this is a great question, Paul, because just a reminder, we buy all of our cars here at Consumer Reports Test Track.
Hey,
and
Quincy, how many cars have you bought?
I have purchased 170 cars for the Consumer Reports test program.
Oh, so we could call you an expert in car buying.
How much is he paying you?
Free cars.
No, I for most people, understandably, right, buying a car is probably worse than going to the dentist.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It takes so long, too. It's so time consuming.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I don't mind doing it. I get real excited. I like the new car smell. I don't know. It's always really cool to me to drive out of a car dealership in a brand new car.
Sure.
I just love it. I don't know why. So, but anyway, Paul, this is a great question, and it is something that everyone has to deal with when they're car shopping. Even new or used car, doesn't matter. I think the sweet spot for buying a new car is to sort of try to be honest with the dealer and say, all right, listen, You get your dealer cost and you've got an MSRP. What is that number in between your cost and the MSRP? Sometimes that negotiation can take 5 minutes. Other times it's drawn out. Well, let me go talk to my boss. I've got to go. And they leave you hanging and waiting. And the idea is if you get worn down buying a car, you're going to be more susceptible to say, fine, whatever, I'll sign. But anyway, but some of the better dealers will say, okay, we'll come up from the dealer cost or down from the MSRP, whatever, and there's the number. And that could be it. It's like, great. You're not paying MSRP. You're not paying over MSRP. That being said, this is all about supply and demand.
Yeah.
So price of gas magically goes up. People are standing in line to buy a Prius. Price of gas comes down, and then it's let's buy trucks, let's buy whatever. So if a new car comes out, everyone is clamoring for it. There's a waiting list. There's not much negotiating room.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind when you go out to shop. Is everyone buying the same car that you're interested in? Well, then it's going to be tougher. And the other golden rule that I have is absolutely do not fall in love. Do not walk into the dealer and see that red Mustang convertible on the show in front of you. Oh my God, I've always wanted one, and oh, look at that, he's fitting in, it's great, and blah, blah, blah. Don't show that kind of emotion and passion, because then the dealer, they got you. Because you're gonna do whatever it takes to get this car. So don't let on that you really, really love it. It's like, yeah, it's okay.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one thing is that, we recommend a bunch of cars. And sometimes the cars that we recommend are really good cars that sometimes there aren't a lot available and the demand is high. It's this crazy thing where people go out and buy cars that are good and they don't buy the cars that are bad. So, the truth is that some of the boring cars or some of the cars that are good and not great, there can be some discounts.
Right.
But very often, honestly, some of the cars that we are recommending can be hard to get. And sometimes, just paying MSRP, you might be getting a good deal.
Right.
That's the truth.
Shop around,
Especially-
though.
What's
Yeah,
that?
shop around and find out.
Shop around. And honestly, depends on where you live. We're on the East Coast. I mean, the truth is on the West Coast, sometimes it's really hard to get a car, even at MSRP, depending on what you're looking at. And they're adding things to it. They're adding, protected packages and the car alarms and all this different stuff that you probably don't want. So the truth is you just call around. There's usually probably a lot of dealerships that are nearby. You don't have to get the one that's nearby you. You could get it serviced everywhere, even if you bought the car that's like 50 miles away, and shop around. And again, don't feel like you failed if you paid MSRP, because you might just have a very good car that everyone else wants.
Yeah.
Right. And if reminding people when we were trying to buy cars during COVID, that was tough.
Oh, I
Yeah.
bet.
Because supply was really tight. Maddie, I don't know if you were tasked to buying one during that time.
I wasn't here during COVID. I know, so I
Forgive
looked out
me.
on the car buying.
You see, you present yourself so well as one of our experts. Maddie's been here forever, right? I'm sorry.
Spiritually, I've been here since it opened in 1936.
So
What was your favorite car from the 40s that we tested?
I'll tell you later.
So buying during COVID for me was really tough. One of the cars that was on our radar was the Lexus LX, the full-sized SUV. And I contacted a number of Lexus dealers, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, Rhode Island. They were all asking between like 20 and 60,000 over MSRP.
Wow.
And the collective brain trust here at Auto Test, like, yeah, maybe we're not going to take. Maybe we should. Maybe
Maybe spend that money elsewhere.
And let me just throw this one other thing out. So even though we buy a lot of cars, what we buy cars are the cars that just came out. They're hot. They're new. We want to be the first ones. What we do recommend is don't do what we're doing.
You said this on
Don't
other podcasts.
be like us.
It was so hysterical. Like, we don't take our own advice.
We don't
'Cause
take-
You buy a car in the first year of production.
Never.
That's probably when you're gonna have the reliability. And we go and we do that.
We do that.
We have to do that so that they don't
Right.
have to do it.
Right.
So our
we
viewers don't.
we get hosed so you don't have to.
Yeah.
But the truth is that not just because of that, but also because of reliability, you're better off the car that's been out for a while. Again, we're talking RAV4, right? RAV4 is coming out with a new one. There's going to be all these people rushing out to get the new
Right.
one because the styling's slightly different or whatever. But it's like you can buy a hybrid RAV4 right now, and it's been around for a few years. You can probably get some discounts on it right now.
Yeah.
So if you're choosing between the new upcoming 2026 or the 25,
Right.
one, you're probably going to get some dollars off. The other one, not so much.
Right. That's great advice. Leftover models are a great deal. They only hurt you if you're always like every couple of years you want a new car. Then you might get hit with depreciation. If you're like a lot of us here, that our personal cars, we just literally drive them into the ground. We drive hundreds of thousand miles on it. At that point, depreciation is a total non-issue. So consider, as to your point, a leftover model, especially one with a great reliability history. And just, point of reminder, we don't judge reliability on our test vehicle.
Right.
So just for clarification,
Right.
we gotta throw that out there.
Hundreds of thousands of data points from
Okay.
members.
I got to plug in one thing though. I recently helped my friend buy a car, and it was a very long process. But the best thing that I did was get the newest version of the new cars and used cars of the magazine that we have. And
We have a magazine?
We have. I know, isn't that fantastic?
Sorry.
Yeah, you can just carry it with you everywhere. So I just pull it out. And they don't know that I'm from CR. I'm not going to tell them, but I just have it.
You're not wearing your cool
No, I'm not.
branded
No.
stuff.
No, our advice is wear that jacket into the dealership.
But
Like we do.
seriously, just
We
like
don't.
bringing those magazines in, and if they talk about cars, like, because dealerships will have cars from other companies. So if they'd say, "Oh, have you thought about this one?" You can be like, "Well, this one has so and so issues reported, or this one is similar," and so I'm going to say no to this one immediately. Then the experience that I had is that they know that you're being serious and that they can't take advantage of you as easily,
Right.
because they're going to try to tell you things that maybe they don't even know are accurate. Because oftentimes when we go buy these cars, we know more about the cars than they do.
Oh, yeah,
So-
that's kind of embarrassing. but again, we don't let on when we buy cars for consumer
Right. No,
reports. For the test program, we have an anonymous, like, non-CR email. We don't disclose who we are until like the day of delivery, and then we tell them, okay,
Yeah.
this is going to be a test car, because we don't want to be treated any differently
Absolutely,
than anyone else.
Yeah. And to their credit, like, they have to know about so many different cars. They probably are always getting into new cars and have to learn new information, whereas we have the advantage of going in with all this knowledge beforehand.
Right. So yes, educated consumer, do your homework. Paul, thanks so much for your question. We could talk about car buying all day, I'm sure, but we'll cut it off here. And our loyal Consumer Reports Talking Cars audience knows that we're always interested in your experiences. So, in the chat, in the comments, tell us about your car buying. And I will say, final word here: not all car dealers are bad. Not all salespeople are bad. I've had great experiences buying cars. So it's not all terrible out there. You just have to find a good dealer. Okay, so let's move on. Now, the next question we have is Brian from Western Pennsylvania, who writes, "My 2018 Honda Pilot 6-speed is now on its third transmission, even though I did regular maintenance. I keep hearing from owners' forums that Honda's use of VCM, variable cylinder management, is having a negative effect on the torque converter and the transmission. Can you clear up for me how VCM works, and can it have a negative impact on the transmission? This has made me cautious of buying a new Pilot, even though I really like it." So, Brian, you should know that here at Consumer Reports, we have lots of different experts. We have people that can fix cars. We have people that can drive cars. We have data analysts that look at reliability and owner satisfaction and all that stuff. So, to answer the first part of your question is how does VCM work? We tapped one of our resident experts, Mike Crossan, who is a frequent contributor here at Talking Cars. And Mike has a really good explanation for you.
Hi Brian, thanks for the question. The VCM stands for Variable Cylinder Management, and this is a system that Honda has installed on their V6 engines where it allows them to shut off half the cylinders to improve fuel economy and reduce overall emissions output. Now, engines like to run, and anytime you start to change that up, there could be some side effects. It sounds like these Honda engines are experiencing premature engine wear, increased engine oil consumption, and misfires due to fouled spark plugs. There's also reports, just like you've indicated, of trouble with torque converters and transmissions. I think the way the system works, as it's turning on and off those cylinders, it's using the torque converter kind of like a shock absorber. It allows it to slip just a little bit to kind of buffer that transition and make it a little bit smoother. But when that happens, heat is built up, and automatic transmissions just don't like heat. Now, I definitely understand your trepidation about buying a model that has this system on it. Totally understandable. So some things to think about are, a big SUV needs a lot of power, and a lot of them do have larger V6 engines. If I wanted to avoid this type of system, I would look for a vehicle that has a smaller displacement engine to begin with. Therefore, it doesn't even need this system in order to meet the fuel economy and emissions regulations. Because if you don't have the system on the car in the first place, you'll never have any trouble out of it.
So that's Mike Crossen's take on the mechanics of this system, but we also thought we would tap into one of our reliability experts, Steve Ellick, who has forgotten more about reliability data than anyone will ever learn, and we got his take on the reliability of Hondas and this system in general.
This is a great viewer's question because this problem is very common on 2018 pilots. I'm looking at the data right now, and we have multiple members that told us the exact same thing that you did, that they had torque converter problems and they had to replace the transmission after that a couple months later. Even after that, they had to replace the transmission again. So very common on the 2018 model. There's varying levels of incidents from the 2016 to 2020 models, but by far 2018 was the most. It's almost 3 times as many members reporting it compared to the average 2018 vehicle. So, but your question is, how does this apply to a new pilot? Don't hold me to this, but I don't think that an issue in 2018 would necessarily apply to the newest pilot, only because as I look for later years, 2019, 2020, I don't even see issues like this for 2021, 2022. I would say that based on the data, this has been worked out, but there's always the chance that something could go wrong, and really only time will tell, and we'll see what the data says next year about the newer model years.
So there's a lot of sound advice here, but they both kind of looked at it sort of from maybe even a used car perspective as well as a new car perspective, and so like Jake, we were talking before about it, and with this this system, it's kind of like displacement on demand, which is notoriously bad for a lot of General Motors products. But do you think people should be wary of this kind of technology?
I don't think so. I mean, look, just because a certain manufacturer is having issues doesn't mean that other manufacturers are going to have problems with the same technology. In fact, there's lots of cars that have very similar technology and may not have those issues. So with anything, it's a learning curve. They're going to work it out. And I wouldn't be surprised if the new vehicles, like Steve says, are going to be better. It's like,
Honda has an excellent reputation for generally good reliability. And the Honda Pilot in particular has had, years of pretty good reliability. But in this case, is not always the case, right?
Not always the case. Right. See, they would be better off with this stick shift pilot. I think that would have solved all problems. No torque converter.
Okay, this question in this podcast has just absolutely gone into the weeds right now.
Pilot Type R. It's already got the all-wheel drive.
Oh, help me, please, get me out of this. No.
That's your job, Mr. Quincy.
So good advice from Mike and from Steve, and let us know how it turns out if you're thinking about getting another Pilot. I know the redesigned Pilot that we tested did really well in our testing. It's a really nice, pretty large 3-row SUV, but again, there's a lot of choices out there. So that is going to do it for this episode of Talking Cars. As always, it was masterfully produced by super producer Dave Abrams, expertly edited by Andrew I Still Play Hockey Belize, as well as Anatoly the Great Shumsky. Always check the show notes for more information on the vehicles and topics that we discuss. Just a reminder, keep your questions coming. Go to cr.org/talkingcars. And thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.